Okay, what we're going to do now is go over the range of motion and the movement that should be happening in the head and the neck. So once again, I'm going to bring up my wonderful assistant, Jenna. So Jenna's going to come up out of the audience, and we're going to have her face right straight forward. So we're going to go over how that neck ideally should be able to move. And there's quite a few different motions that the neck should be able to have. So the first motion that we're going to look at is going to be flexion of the head and the neck. So as she flexes forward, that head should be able to effortlessly just roll forward and down without any kind of restriction or impingement. So if we have her now come back up to neutral, now she's going to go into extension. So that head and that neck should be able to look up and extend backwards. And for a lot of people, when they're having a lot of restriction within the connective tissues on that back side of the body, it kind of gets in the way and it prevents them from being able to really look up all the way like they're supposed to. The next motion is going to be lateral flexion of the head and the neck. So if she comes into lateral flexion, that head should just be able to effortlessly and easy come over with that ear coming over towards her shoulder. So if she goes back to center, now we're going to look at rotation. So what should happen is that that head actually has quite a bit of range of motion where the head should be able to rotate each direction. And then when we add each vertebrae being able to rotate as well, she should be able to effortlessly and easily look over either shoulder. And what happens is that if there's any kind of restriction, you can come back to neutral, so I don't have you there too long. If there's any kind of restriction within any of that connective tissue, or the brain perceives that there's any danger that's going to be coming up, it can lock down that tissue even more. A couple of other motions that we would like to see out of the head and the neck, one is going to be called differentiation or lateral shift of the head. So kind of like an Egyptian, her neck should be able to stay relatively still and her head should just be able to shift over just a little bit. Lateral translation. If she goes back to center, she goes the other way. If we can see if we can get her to move like an Egyptian here for just a second. Hey, that's very nice. And then the last piece, another motion that a lot of people don't realize is that if we combine all of those motions together, we should get a motion called undulation. So if she were to, there's these toys in travel areas where there are these toy snakes where they're made out of wood. And each area of the snake on the toy should be able to move. And the vertebrae is kind of the same thing. What should happen is that if she goes through a gentle undulation motion, is that her head should just be able to float back and forth on either side. So we'll come back to center. So if you start first, let the shoulder go first, and then the head goes over that way, and then she comes back this way. If we combine all of those gentle motions, the head should be able to, and the neck should be able to just float effortlessly and freely on top of her shoulder girdle, and if anything constricts or is holding more than what it should, she loses all of those beautiful motions that should be able to combine and float effortlessly and freely. So thank you very much. That was beautiful Egyptian work and undulation work.